you know, one thing we do need to do, and I learned this from Sekou, I learned this from Iskia, I learned it from, your dad. I learned that you have to be of service to others. You really, really, really do. You really have to be of service to others. And I think Ed kind of alluded to this. And it's something that I kind of like, I saw you guys do it, and I didn't, so I kind of like had a blueprint, but it was something that happened for me organically. And that was being the service to others, being somebody's parent, being somebody's father. And I know there are times when I have students that'll tell me, you're like a father to me. And I'm like, whoa, stop right there, time out. I only got 4 kids. But yes, there's sometimes when you have to be assertive. You have to be that, that parent. And I think probably one of the reasons, one of the many reasons why we didn't homeschool was because we wanted to be that example, right? We wanted to be that person that said, hey, you know what? I'm a dad and I'm gonna look out for you. I'm gonna be your uncle, and during the summers, during graduation, I show up for graduations because, their folks weren't there. So those little things, you got to be of service to others. You have to be really willing to not just be a dad to your kids, but also, like Ed was saying, to other kids. So you have to be of service. And a lot of times that happens informally, right? And I think we need to figure out ways to do that formally, right? So when you have like the Imani Foundation and how we mentored young people, you had NROPA, which is like a national rites of passage organization.
Right.
Joining a rites of passage organization in your city. What I've learned is all major cities have a rites of passage organization. You just have to find it and sign up because they need as many of us to step up to the plate as possible. And also, when we mentor, it shouldn't just be like, middle school, high school, elementary. There'll also be men of college age because they need it probably much more than those that are in, say, for example, high school, right? They probably need that more so because they're not in a position where they're not in a situation where they can be mentored by men, particularly Black men. So we need to reach out to college age men as well and mentor them because they're about to become fathers themselves. They're about to, start raising families, usually a couple years after they get out of college. So that we need to do that as well.
Wow. Okay. So we must be fathers / mentors to other folks' kids and young adults, and we have to be of service to others. All right. And I'm also thinking, Dan, you were saying that last time that you just wanted us to start showing up at some of the PTA meetings. And this took me back to an organization called FIT, Fathers in Training, here in Virginia Beach. It's that fatherhood initiative that you're talking about. So in 7 cities, we have one in each city. In Virginia Beach is Fathers in Training. And they have a motto of be present, be a protector, and be a provider. Be a provider, be a protector, and be present, in that order. Be a provider, be present, and be present, all right, be a provider, and be a protector, in that order. That's the order that it's in. And that's kind of what you were talking about in terms of with the PTA meeting. If we can be more present, I think then we can start dealing with some of the structural inequalities and some of the other governmental problems that are preventing some of our fathers from being the fathers that they want to be. So yeah, definitely we have to be present. When they talked about, providing, they weren't necessarily saying you had to be the household provider, because if you didn't live with your child, there's someone else who's truly providing something for them, but you can provide to that provider. And it's something that you have to do. They have to be very obvious about. You have to provide to that provider. And that's what they taught with Fathers in Training. And protect, it doesn't mean that you're going to be the superhero and put on your Iron Man suit. It meant that, when they're dealing with some things, you're going to give them advice that protects them from harm. Whether they listen to that advice or not, whether you're going to get some flack because you ain't been in their lives, and now people are saying, who are you to say anything? You ain't been around. As long as you keep giving good advice that will protect them from harm, at some point they'll start listening. So the thing was, be present, be a provider, and be a protector. Crumb, you've had a really interesting fatherhood experience, right? All right. Let's talk about that, man, because your children don't live with you. So how is it a little different? Because I know that, with Eddie, his kids live with him. My kids live with me. Dan Trez, your kids live with you. What's the challenges of being a father when your children don't live with you?
Well, I think a large part of it is, the social workers. Our women have been encouraged to part ways with the men, and I think you were kind of speaking to that to a certain degree. You were defining these things. And, even though I know you speak from a practical individual point, when we're dealing with these people who are more so following the government, being a provider has nothing to do with anything except a monetary contribution. I don't care if you're the greatest dad in the world. If you don't give them what they deem righteous, then you're a deadbeat dad. And these are some of the things that a lot of our young men are going to find out early, who may be with a woman who is more so going to go with whatever dominant society says, and I personally feel as if I've been a victim of that, so it's definitely been a hard struggle when you're dealing with, people who are going to go with the social worker, people who are going to go with the, the court system. I challenged my son to do something, and he had flaked out on me, and I pushed him, just like my father pushed me. And, she told the cops, or the police, the courts, that I was abusing him, so I understand a father's plight in terms of being active, because what we're going to see is this being interpreted as toxic masculinity. What we're going to see is where your alpha males like Malcolm X are going to die, and your beta males like Al Sharpton are going to flourish.
Whoa.
Oh.
Yeah, I got to clap for that. Okay.
You said something right there.
Wow.
I get that, and I understand, because I see that on a regular basis, and the system is not designed for men to be successful. It's not. For as fathers, it's not designed for you to be able to. But I tell but you said the right thing. You were right on point. First of all, the ministry of presence is a powerful thing. And you know what? Be there when you can be there. I've seen kids so my godson, I got a godson whose father ain't nowhere to be found. I ain't seen that joker since baptism, since dedication. And guess what? But every time they have men in schools, at his school, what is he, in 3rd grade, 4th grade? I show up. And I stay as long as I can, and I follow his classes, and to the point where I know the kids in his class, and I've checked a couple of them in class, and they know when I walk in the room, or I'll just show up at his school. David, what are you doing? I told Lily Monty, I said, sweetie, Miss Destiny, I said, sweetheart, you talk too much. Why don't you let And I gave them homework. The teacher gave them homework. I said, so here's your extra assignment. Make sure it's on there. I said, you explain to your teacher what is so important that you have to talk about, that you want to interrupt her lesson. Since you know so much in the 3rd grade that you have to talk and the teacher don't get to talk. No, ma'am. But guess what? It's about showing up. And when you talk about, and we have to teach fathers how to be present. And it's not always about, don't be present for the big stuff. No, for the little stuff. So if if you got a problem at school, and I'm saying this because the new position I'm taking is part of it is graduate support. And so once I transition kids to their next step, I'm also providing graduate support to students and parents, because a lot of parents, so if I'm transitioning kids to these uppity bougie, predominantly white prep schools. And so I have to be able to make sure that parents can advocate for their kids. It's not that parents don't want to advocate, they don't know how. They don't know how to walk into this situation and say, okay, so this is what my child has presented to me, and this is what I think needs to happen. And so how are we going to make this happen?
Wow.
And that's part of it, that I stay in DC, that I stay in the city, because my last homeroom in DCPS, You know, those kids, those parents don't necessarily. I realize that in the underserved communities in our cities, it's not that parents don't want the very best for their kids, but guess what? A lot of people don't know how to advocate for their kids.